Attorney General in charge of the Westchester Regional Office. To speak with Gary, call 914-636-0110. Once again, the Attorney General's report. Here's the Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Westchester Regional Office, Gary Brown.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening here in New Rochelle on WVOX. The sun has just come out, so it looks like the rains have cleared, and things are looking good for the rest of the afternoon. So last fall, I had occasion to give a speech in Manhattan to a group of professionals about elder financial fraud. And in the audience was Leslie Funk from Community Mediation Services. And we got to speak afterwards. Leslie then invited me to speak to the mediators out at her organization in Queens and train them. And now she's been good enough to join us on the phone lines as a guest on the Attorney General's report. Hi, Leslie.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you? Is it still raining in Queens?
It is.
Well, you've got good news. Sunshine is on the way because the sun just broke out here really strong.
Oh, good to know. Looking forward to it.
So, Leslie, tell us about Community Mediation Services. What kind of work do you do?
Sure. So Community Mediation Services is primarily a mediation organization. We do family services work as well as youth services, and I work within our mediation department. So through family services and youth services, we work with probation, we work with ACS, provide services to families in the Queens community. And through mediation, we provide, within this department, we provide free mediation services as well as trainings and other opportunities for the Queens community.
Now, Leslie, I happened to see a video with you in it this morning as I was preparing for the show. You were being interviewed about how it is you became a mediator. You know the interview that I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did very well, by the way. So you went to law school, and then what happened?
So I knew I wanted to pursue mediation, and that was the impetus for going to law school at Hamlin Law. So they have a very strong dispute resolution program, and so I went there. And after graduating, went back to my home state of Massachusetts, where I got some volunteer experience in small claims courts around the state, and then was able to secure a position here at Community Mediation Services in Queens, and was able to turn it into a full-time gig working here.
Before Jen Gashi asks you a question, you're from Massachusetts. Please just tell me you're not a Red Sox fan.
Oh, no, I was raised properly by a Brooklyn father and a New Jersey mother,
okay.
So I'm a Yankees fan.
Okay, Jen, go ahead with the interview now.
Well, Leslie, Jen Gashi, nice to speak to you. I've been hearing, several times already, you mentioned mediation, but could you explain for me and anyone else that doesn't exactly know what that term means, what actually mediation is?
Definitely. So mediation is a process where two or more people in conflict are able to come to the table and have a conversation with a neutral person, so someone who's unbiased and not there to make a decision. So that's the mediator. And the mediation process is voluntary, so it gives the people in conflict an opportunity to have a conversation with support from this person, this mediator, who's helping the conversation to flow.
So what are the kind of issues that can be mediated?
So the types of issues that can be mediated are really any nonviolent conflict where the parties have chosen to participate. So the important part is that the parties choose to be a part of this process. That's a very big piece, that it is voluntary for all people involved and that they recognize that they have a say in the outcome as well. Self-determination is a really key part to mediation. So
it takes two to tango. You can't force one side to mediate if the other side wants to.
Exactly, which is somewhat disappointing to some people, but it really is critical to the success, at least of the conversation, let alone of the outcome.
What are the most common topics that you've come across that have been mediated?
So here in Queens, there are a lot of people living in a relatively small space, so that lends itself towards a lot of conflicts between neighbors. So noise complaints are a huge common topic that we deal with. Everyone's upstairs neighbor is being intentionally loud. And sometimes it's infuriating to the point where people want to participate in mediation, and it does work out. We also have a lot of conflicts similarly based on close proximity between landlord and tenant. There are often cases with parents and their child, issues within families as well as custody visitation or divorce concerns. And we also find even business to business, whether that's the small bodega and their neighbor or a large bank and their customer. It can take all types of conflicts.
Now, if you decide to engage in mediation, what type of cost? Is mediation more cost-effective than, say, filing a lawsuit?
It definitely is. That is one of the huge selling points, so to speak, of the mediation process, because New York State has a law that every county has to have free mediation services provided. So that being said, at Community Mediation Services, where I am at CMS, we provide free mediation through the County of Queens, and every county throughout New York has that same type of service that's available at their local community dispute resolution center.
And Leslie, it's Gary again. And your counterpart in Westchester then would be what?
So the counterpart there is called Cluster, and they're based in Westchester, I think it's in Westchester, and they work with Westchester and Rockland counties.
And you gave us a little bit about your background, and you mentioned that you had gone to law school. In general, do people mediating conflicts all share that background, or what type of background do mediators have?
Yeah, so I think it's a common, sometimes misperception that all mediators have a background in law, whether that's as retired judges or newer in their careers, having previously worked or been educated within the legal field. But we also have a lot of mediators, even here, let alone in other centers, who have a wide variety of other backgrounds, having worked in HR, having worked in the field of education. There's no background requirement. It really comes down to mediators must complete a 30 to 40-hour basic mediation training. It depends on the center for what the center offers and requires. And then to participate in and complete an apprenticeship training. So those are the key pieces. Anything else is just a bonus if people have a background in law or a background in anything else. And sometimes the legal background can be more of a hindrance, having been trained in a different approach towards communication than mediation requires.
Leslie, is there a character trait that tends to make someone a really good mediator, or the opposite, a really bad mediator?
Yeah, so for both, so for a really bad mediator, or, a less effective mediator, perhaps.
Thank you for
reframing. The challenge is with people who are used to directing, who are used to telling people what is supposed to happen. So retired judges can sometimes have a challenge with that, and especially if the person has made a career out of that. They've been good at directing others. So that can be a really tough shift to encourage the parties to lead the process and to kind of supplement it as a mediator. And so similarly then, for very effective mediators, those who are very adept at listening, that is an incredible trait. That is a very hard thing to teach, but a very important skill set to have.
How long does a typical mediation last?
So typical mediation in our center is normally between 2 and 3 hours, and normally it's only one session, but people are always welcome to come back for more.
Wow, that's a lot to get done in 2 and 3 hours. I think that I don't know why, but I would have thought it would take a lot longer than that, but that sounds really great. With all of the benefits of mediation, why don't you think that mediation isn't that more people haven't heard of mediation before now?
I think one of the issues is that there's been a lot of pushback from courts or traditionally practicing attorneys who have not necessarily seen the benefit, whether it's for themselves or for their clients, because it does involve a free service that they are not getting paid for. And for the general public, I think it's almost the fact that it is unknown continues to keep it unknown. There haven't been high-profile mediations, in part because it's a confidential process. So it's a tough thing to work past, to convince people that this process they don't know about is actually probably their best option for resolving their conflict. So it's definitely an ongoing goal within the field to do more outreach and to really get the word out about this great opportunity.
Well, thank you for joining us in that effort today. Leslie, we have a lot of listeners in Queens who pull in the signal on WVOX. So if they want to get more information about community mediation services, how do they do that?
They can go to our website, which is mediatenyc.org. And for those who are based in your area, in Westchester, Rockland counties, Cluster's website is clusterinc.org.
Leslie Funk, thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So, Jen, you were telling us during the break that you were once applying for a job at a firm, and they wanted to know what your mediation background was, right?
Yeah, it was a small family law firm in Westchester, and they did. They said that a lot of what they recommend now is to start any divorce proceeding, and they first recommend mediation, and they wanted all of their lawyers to be trained in mediation.
And what people may not know is that at the Attorney General's office, our first step when we get a consumer complaint most of the time is mediation. We reach out to the company. We say, in essence, here's the complaint from the consumer. What's your side of the story? And then try to work out a resolution. And we've got a pretty good batting average at it. However, if the business doesn't want to participate in mediation, we can't force them to. If a consumer doesn't want to participate, we can't force them either. So I understood very well what Leslie was saying about the voluntary nature of mediation.
Yeah, no, it makes sense that any time really you're going to try to resolve a conflict, it's best to start out with two people who are willing to talk about it in the first place, and you can't force someone into something they don't want to do.
And when I was out in Queens last month to do a training on elder financial fraud for the mediators of community mediation services, I came away very impressed. These people had wonderful listening skills. They asked great questions. This was in a training seminar, not in a mediation, but I could see that the same skills would be readily applicable.
Yeah, it is a skill. I mean, to be able to listen and direct a conversation without dominating it and making it about yourself and what you want to talk about is definitely a skill. I'm not sure that I have it as a lawyer, but I'll work on it.
Well, you're a good prosecutor, though.
Thanks.
Well, folks, the music means we're running out of time. Thank you so much for listening to the Attorney General's report. Thank you, Jen Gashi, so much. You did a great job in your debut appearance here. If you want to reach out to the Attorney General's office by phone, we can be reached toll-free, 1-800-771-7755, or online at ag.ny.gov. So we'll be back on the second Tuesday